What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. So on my last video, I asked you guys if you guys would want to know more information about my injectors, why I chose them, the specific reasons behind the choosing of them, and just different details around it. And I had a number of you guys reach out and say that you guys would be interested in having an injector video. And so that is what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to cover quite a few things. Hopefully I won't ramble on too much, but there is kind of a lot of information when it comes to injectors in these 7.3 Powerstrokes or the 7.3 platforms. So I'll start off with kind of giving a background and knowledge about the different injector options out there, kind of what you're looking at, just to give people a general idea of what there is. And then I'll move into why I chose the specific injectors that I chose. And then from that, I'll go into the actual prices of what I paid for those. So let's get going. I do have a notepad because there's a lot of information. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Kind of give a background. There are 5 different types of injectors that came in these trucks stock or from the factory. These are AA codes, AB codes, AC codes, AD codes, and AE codes. So as I'm kind of going through all this, I'll probably try to list some stuff on the screen to help you guys follow along. I'm not sure how much I will list or whatever, but if it looks like when I'm editing, if I think I can add something to help it seem more clear, I'll do that for you guys. But starting off with the AA code injectors, I'm going to give you guys the knowledge that I was able to find, what I was looking up and where I was able to find it. A lot of the stuff I got from Riff Raff Diesel's website. If any of you guys are unaware of Riff Raff Diesel, they are an absolutely phenomenal resource when it comes to the Powerstroke community, especially the 7.3 Powerstrokes. They've probably been in the game as one of the longest companies out there helping the 7.3 owners. I can't say enough good things about them. Their service has always been phenomenal. I've always had good products from them, whether it's OEM stuff or aftermarket stuff. I've been extremely happy with them, and I know most people are. So if you're not familiar with Riff Raff Diesel, go check them out. They have just about anything you can need as a 7.3 owner. I'm not sponsored by them. I would love to be, but I'm not. Just good service. But that is where I got a lot of this information from, and they're actually where I order a lot of my parts through. Alright, so when we're getting into the injectors, there's kind of 2 main things you should know. We're going to be talking about the CC measurement of the injectors, which is however many cubic centimeters of fuel they're capable of putting in, and I believe it's at 1,000 shots, maybe 100, but I'm pretty sure it's 1,000 shots. So when I say something like a 90 cc injector, I'm talking about 90 cubic centimeters of fuel that is capable of putting out. That's basically just a measurement of how much fuel it can push. And then they are single shot and split shot. A single shot injector is when all the fuel is pushed out at one time in one single shot. Split shot injectors, got a wasp. So split shot injectors are when the injectors actually give a small little boost of fuel at the beginning and then dump the rest of the load right after that to help kind of create a fuller burn and reduce injector noise. They ended up moving away from the split or the single shot injectors to the split shot injectors when they transitioned into the when they transitioned into the Super Duty trucks. This was for a couple reasons. One, to try to help create a cleaner burn, or a more complete burn, and 2, to try to reduce noise of the injectors themselves. The split shot injectors are kind of what you hear in like the big school buses or the older OBS trucks that have that little bit of a cackle or rumble at idle, and so they ended up switching them for those 2 reasons. But those are kind of the 2 main things that you guys should know, is the CCs, what they mean, and single shot or split shot. So starting off from 94 to 97, the trucks were given AA code injectors, which are 90 cc single shot injectors. So if you have a 94 to 97 truck, you should, as far as I know, have 90 cc injectors that are single shots. Moving on to the AB injectors is what they transitioned to in the early 99 trucks. and those are 130cc split shot injectors. So in the early 99 trucks, they ended up bumping up the fuel level to 130 cc's, and they switched it over to split shot injectors, as I said, to try to reduce the engine noise as well, or the engine / injector noise, as well as to help create a more complete and cleaner burn. Moving on, normally it does go in order to the AC injectors, but I'm going to skip over those and come back. You'll see why in a little bit. But going from the AB to now the AD injectors, that's when they went from the late 99 models to the 2003 models. 99 was kind of a half year for these engines. They have the early 99s and the late 99s, and there is a difference between the two. For those curious, there are a couple of kind of key things that you can differentiate the two trucks from. The early 99 trucks usually have the V8 badge right at the very front of the fenders by the headlights. The late 99s don't have those, as well as the early 99s do not have an intake heater. The late 99s do. Those are a couple things you can look to try to determine what your truck is. They are different setups on the engine between the turbos and everything. So if you're buying aftermarket parts and you have a 99, you need to make sure you know which one is which. But not going to go too deep into that. So the late 99 to 03 models came with 140 or 150 cc split shot injectors. I've seen people say both. I'm not sure which one it is. It's 140 or 150 cc injectors. So again, they bumped up the fuel capabilities from the early 99s from 130 to about 140 or 150 cc, and they kept it as a split shot injector. Then there's the AE injector, which is also known as the long lead injector. This is the injector that they put in the Super Duty model trucks, late 99 to 03, that goes in the number 8 injector position. So I want to do my best to explain this. Hopefully it makes sense. But the number 8 injector would often get a little bit starved for fuel because of the firing order of all the cylinders. It would fire off right after the one in front of it, and because these have deadheaded fuel systems, meaning that it doesn't flow all the way through the heads, the number 8 is at the very end and the one firing right before it is here, and so this fires and then this fires, and because of that, the number 8 injector would sometimes get starved for fuel and run a little bit louder. So they put a different style injector in it. It's basically an AD injector with just a little bit of internals, I believe. And that's to try to help keep the injector cackle down that these things are known for, the injector knock. For those people that own the late 99 to 03 Powerstrokes, you should have 7 AD injectors and 1 AE injector in your truck. The AE injector being in the number 8 slot. People down below, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these trucks will run just fine with all 8 as AD injectors. They might just be a hair louder that you might hear, but in general they're all the same injectors, just that one was used to reduce the injector cackle or injector knock. So now, like I said, I skipped over the AC injectors. These things are a little different because they were never offered in the 7.3 Powerstroke trucks. For those that know, the 7.3 Powerstroke is an international engine. So the 7.3 Powerstroke originated from the T44 engine from International. There are slight differences between the two, but for the most part they are about the same. One of the differences is the injectors. With the International trucks, they came with a high output engine model, which was the T44E high output. These came with the AC code injectors, which were 160cc single shot injectors. As far as I know, these are the highest or the largest injectors that came with these trucks or with these engines from the factory, and they were not offered in the Powerstroke models. So that's kind of the basics of the injectors coming from the factory that you guys should know about. I think that covers just about everything. So now we move into the aftermarket world of injectors. there are kind of two ways that people list these off, or stage injectors and the actual measurements of the injectors. As far as actually communicating what kind of injector you have, using the actual measurements of the injectors is a lot more useful in my opinion. But you will have the people that use the stage injectors and the actual measurements, and by that I mean stage 1 injectors, stage 1.5, stage 2, stage 3 injectors, and then there are the people that actually use the measurements of what those stages actually mean. The reason why most people say to not use the stages and use the actual numbers, if I say I have a stage 1.5 injector, that could be meaning that I have a 180 cc stock nozzle, or it could mean I have 160 cc with a 30% over nozzle, or a 50% over nozzle, or a 100% over nozzle. If I have say I have a stage 2 injector, that could mean that I have a 180 cc injector with a 30% over nozzle, or a 50% over nozzle, or 100% over nozzle. So like I was saying, it kind of, because the stages are not really exact measurements of what you actually have, using the actual measurements of the injectors are by far more useful when actually determining what kind of injector you have. So the stage 1 injectors basically start at the AC code injectors. They are 160 cc shot, 0% over nozzles. And when I'm getting into this and I start talking about percent over nozzles, it's basically a stock nozzle is 0%, 50% nozzle is 50% larger than the stock nozzle, 100% is twice the size, and it's basically the actual holes in the nozzle that the fuel shoots through. We're talking about how much bigger those holes are on the injectors. So stage 1 injector starts at 160 cc shot injector. That's basically what a stage 1 is. It's simple. Moving on from there, we have the stage 1.5 injectors. Stage 1.5 and stage 2 are basically everything between or above a 160 stock nozzle up into a 205 100% over nozzle, which is when they usually make the transition into hybrids. That being said, basically all of these injectors are going to be single shot injectors. So the reasoning behind the single shot injector, like I said, they went to split shot to try to reduce noise and cackle, but the single shot injectors are more efficient when it comes to your high pressure oil system, and usually because of that they get a little bit better fuel mileage if you can keep your foot off the skinny pedal. Because the split shot injectors are requiring 2 shots of fuel, it does tax the high pressure oil pump system a little more. And so let's say you go from an AD injector split shot to an AC injector single shot, you actually, even though you're bumping up the fuel levels, you're actually requiring less out of your high pressure oil system. I'll go into more of that, why I chose the injectors that I did, but just be kind of keeping that in mind. I know I'm rambling. There's just so much information about all this. The stage 1.5s to 2s, like I said, everything between those two AC codes and hybrids. So now what are hybrid injectors? Hybrid injectors are basically 7.3 injectors that have gotten the plunger and barrel assemblies from the larger international engines. So I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but basically they took the internals from a bigger international injector and put it into the 7.3 injectors, and because of that you're able to push out a ton more fuel for a lot less high pressure oil, just based on how it all works. For the most part, everything 200 cc and higher, I've seen hybrid injectors up to the 400 cc and 300% over nozzles. Not many people run those. They're hard to tune. Again, getting into the whole decision-making process. But hybrid injectors are a much more efficient way to utilize your high-pressure oil system for putting out a lot more fuel. So that's kind of the basics of the aftermarket injectors. So I'm going to go into the decision-making process of actually choosing injectors. From what I've seen from a lot of other people, and I agree with, if you're in the market looking for aftermarket 7.3 injectors or new injectors for your truck, don't get set on a single injector, but instead pick a horsepower range that you're going for, and then you can build your setup a number of different ways to hit that horsepower range. Little statement before, I'm not going to say that the exact setups that I'm going to list for you are the best ways to do something. I encourage you guys to do your own research and make your decisions, but I'll give you some examples. So say you want to build a 400 horsepower or a 450 horsepower truck. There are a few ways to do this. You can get a 180cc injectors with maybe 50% over nozzles, an upgraded high pressure oil pump, and a new turbo, or a slightly upgraded turbo, or upgrade your stock turbo, and that should put you pretty darn close to the 450 horsepower range. Because you're upgrading to the single shot injectors that are requiring more fuel, but they're still the stock, or still based off the stock 7.3 injector platform. Kind of once you get above the 180cc mark with stock nozzles, you're going to start to look at your high pressure oil pump not being able to meet the demands of the injectors, especially at that full throttle range when you're running at close to 3,000 RPMs. It just can't push out enough oil to keep up with it, and so you'll see your oil pressure, your high pressure oil pressure, not being able to keep up with the injectors. That's where the hybrid injectors come into play. With the hybrid injectors, you're able to push a lot more fuel out, but you're requiring almost less than stock injectors are in terms of high pressure oil. You'll see it in a lot of different places that the hybrid injectors are able to run off stock high pressure oil pumps while pushing almost double the fuel just because of how they're designed. So why would you not just go with a hybrid injector? Because sometimes they're close to double the price. So again, it depends on what you're shooting for, how you want to build it, but you got to keep all these things in mind. So I mean, I could ramble on about this for probably half an hour, but hopefully this gave you a little bit of the basics on stock injectors versus upgraded injectors, aftermarket, kind of what options there are out there. I highly encourage you to go look at, read the forums for one. There's a lot of great information about it. Look at manufacturers' websites, whether it be Rosewood injectors or Swamps injectors, Full Force injectors. Those are kind of the three biggest injector builders out there, or rebuilders out there. Alliant Power, I believe, is the original manufacturer of 7.3 injectors, and they still make these injectors to the best of my knowledge. But if you have any questions about setups, feel free to call these companies. Almost all of them are all willing to help people out. I help them figure out their builds. Obviously, don't waste their time, but if you have any serious questions, feel free to ask them. I know Clay at Riff Raff is very helpful when it comes to people helping with their builds, helping them make decisions. And I know Clay at Riff Raff has a very good reputation of actually telling people, like, no, you don't need to spend the money on all this stuff. What you have right now, or what this would be just fine. It's not all sales for him. It's actually keep taking care of his customers, which is extremely valuable in my mind, and extremely helpful. Like I said, I could go on about aftermarket injectors and different setups for half hour to an hour or more, but that should give you a good baseline of what it all involves. So why did I choose the specific injectors that I chose? Like I mentioned in my last video, I chose to put in AC code injectors, which means I put in 160cc with stock nozzle injectors. So probably one of the biggest reasons I chose these injectors is their availability. Because these injectors came stock in international engines, you're able to get them at just about any international dealership. So let's say you're on a road trip 1,000 miles away from home, and for some reason you get a bad batch of fuel or something, and you drop an injector or two. What are you going to do if you have custom injectors? You can't just go to a dealership and say, hey, I need a new 180cc with 30% over nozzle injector. They're going to be like, they probably won't even know what you're talking about. As opposed to the stock AC injectors, you call an international dealership, say, hey, I need a stock injector for a high output T44 or T444E engine. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, we got that in stock, or they don't. Whatever it is, they should, for the most part, it's a dealership, they should have it in stock, and if they don't, it should be in the near area. So that's one of the biggest reasons I chose to go with the stock AC injectors. Is I know you shouldn't plan to break down or parts to go out on the road, but, you know, shit happens. Having the comfort in knowing that if something happened, I can go to a dealership or call a dealership and say, hey, I need this specific injector, and I could probably get it in that day. As opposed to a custom injector where you got to call the manufacturer, even if it's under warranty, you got to call them and be like, and you're looking at, I mean, you could overnight it maybe, but probably 2, 3, 4, 5 days until you can get that injector to you, let alone installed in your truck. And so that's one big reason I chose these stock AC code injectors, is because they're available. As far as power goes, I knew I wasn't going to be expecting a huge bump in power going up to the AC code injectors, which I was okay with. This truck is not my weekend fun truck. This truck is my daily driver. I take it to and from work every single day, and because of that, I need it to be reliable. I would love to build a 450 horsepower 7.3, tinker around with it, have fun, but at the end of the day, I need this truck to run and start and drive consistently every single day. And so I didn't want to push a ton of power through it. I'm not saying you can't build a reliable 450 horsepower truck. I'm just saying that when you start adding power, stuff tends to break. Kind of the laws of fun projects. So power and reliability, I wasn't looking for anything crazy. A mid 300 horsepower build is totally fine with me for this specific truck. Another reason is the high pressure oil system and MPG. Like I said, going to the single shot injector design, on the lower end of single shot injectors, you are actually requiring less out of your high pressure oil system. And so I've actually noticed going from my smaller split shot injectors to these slightly larger single shot injectors, that under a hard pass, my high pressure oil pump is actually maintaining higher pressure, which means it's actually keeping up with the injectors better. So I'm demanding less out of my high pressure oil system, and at the same time I've also seen a bump in fuel mileage, which most people would agree that with these AC code injectors you should see both those things. I'm not saying you're going to be getting 25 miles per gallon, but I went from 12 or 13 with some injectors going bad, so it's not exactly accurate, up to 17 to 19, depending on how nicely I drive the truck. But I'm going easier on my high pressure oil system, which goes into the reliability of the truck. It's less likely to fail. And 2, I'm getting a little bit more efficiency as far as using the power goes. And so that's another reason why I chose to go with AC injectors. And then price. Looking around, you can find a lot or a number of manufacturers, like I said, Rosewood, Swamps, Full Force. They are all very reputable injector rebuilders. Most of them offer new injectors as well, but they also offer rebuilt injectors. For the most part, they have really good reviews on their rebuilt injectors. They stand behind them with the same warranty. I'm not going to say they're bad injectors at all. I don't have experience with their rebuilt injectors, so I can't say for sure. But when it comes down to it, me personally, I would rather have a stock OEM injector that's brand new going into my truck than a rebuilt one. Like I said, they have the same warranty on the rebuilt ones, but I'd rather not have to use the warranty. Like I said, this is my daily driver truck. I'd rather not have the truck down at all and use OEM. Now, I'm not saying that what I chose is perfect or right. I may still have problems with the injectors. Stuff happens. I'm just trying to increase my likelihood of having the best injector or the best reliability that I can have for all this. This video is getting really, really long. Hopefully you guys are sticking along with this. So I'm wrapping up the whole price thing. You can get rebuilt injectors, usually cheaper. I'd made the decision for myself that I wanted to go with brand new injectors from Alliant Power. They are, like I said, I think the original manufacturers of the injectors. I wanted this thing to be like a new truck. And so I made the decision to go with them, and so I started looking around to see where I could get the best prices. And looking through the different websites, from what I saw, Riff Raff does seem to have the best price by far. I say by far. It could save you $100, $200 in the scheme of things. So injector setups in these trucks are not cheap, no matter which way you go, especially when you go brand new injectors like I did. So I'll go over the price of what I ended up paying for my injectors. So I ended up paying roughly just under $2,400 for my injectors to ship to my door. That includes the core charge. Like I said, not cheap. So Riff Raff's core charge wasn't too bad. It was $50 per injector, so that means I get the injectors, pay an extra $50 on every injector, and then when I send mine back, I get $50 back for every injector that I return. So take the $2,400 after I install and return my old injectors, that brings it down to $2,000. A nice refund. It's not exactly a refund, it's a core charge, but nonetheless, $400 back, so now we're down to $2,000. Now, on top of that, I don't know how Riff Raff is able to do it. I don't know if it's because they do so much work with the injector builders, but they did offer another discount on top of that for each injector I bought. So going from just under $2,000, they offered me another discount that brought it down to just over $1,700. So that's close to, it was $287 off my injector order. So I'm getting $400 back, another close to $300 back on their discount, which brought my overall injector price to $1,700 or $1,708. So I paid $1,708 for all 8 of my brand new AC code injectors that I put in my truck, which comes out to $213 per injector. When I was looking at other websites, I was looking at injectors that were right around $270 for the same exact AC code injector. I was seeing that they were listed around $270. So I don't know how Riff Raff does it, but they do. The price still seems to be about the same with their discount that they throw in there. So if you're looking at, I also looked at the different, whether you're just going stock injectors, same truck, or same injectors that you already had in your truck, whether it be the AD or AC or AB. It looks like they have that discount across the board. So again, I'm not sponsored by Riff Raff, but if you're looking at new injectors, I would definitely check it out because it looks like you can save some good money there. I am cooking in my truck right now. This video is extremely long. I do apologize, but there's a ton of information out there. I didn't want to cut it into 2 videos. Hopefully you guys watch some of it, more than my average 5-minute view time. But yeah, like I said, I chose my injectors from the reliability of the truck that I'm trying to build right now, and to the price point that I was able to get them at. And after 6 months of having these injectors in the truck, I am extremely happy with them. Noticed a good bump in power. I'm not drag racing this thing by any means. I've said that in previous videos. It's not a drag truck. And if I want to build a drag truck, I'll do that separately. It's not my daily driver. But hopefully this information was useful to you guys. I know it's probably... I know it's all just me talking to the camera. I mean, I've sat here for probably 30 or 40 minutes just talking to the camera. Hopefully you guys can put up with it. I think I got all the major knowledge down. If I missed anything or you guys have any questions, please just leave a comment below. I can almost guarantee I missed something in all of this. So leave a question below if you have a question. I'll do my best to answer it. And if I can't answer it, I'll direct you in the right way, or maybe somebody else watching the video can answer it. As always, if you guys liked the video, leave it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. All your guys' comments help the channel grow. As much as you guys interact with the channel, it does help YouTube share the channel more, so I can't thank you guys enough. Again, almost everything I've bought for this truck, including all the injectors and everything, should be listed in the description below if you want links to get to where I was shopping. All the Amazon links don't cost you guys anything extra. But I will be honest that they do kick back a little bit to the channel. It's basically Amazon making a little less money and the channel gets a little more. And by a little, I mean 1% or less. It does help the channel, allows me to provide more content for you guys without completely breaking the bank. I'm not rich by any means, so I'm building this truck as funds allow. I'll probably be releasing this video on Friday, so congratulations to all of you that made it through another week. Weather out here is absolutely gorgeous right now. Hopefully it's the same for you guys. Hopefully you guys can get some work done on your rigs. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.